This is iReport, First Voice News, bringing you today's top stories. It's September 26th, and here are the headlines.
War can feel distant until it arrives at your doorstep. Today, we're exploring 8 extraordinary accounts that show how quickly a normal Tuesday morning can transform into a moment of history.
These stories really capture that jarring transition from peace to crisis. Should we start with what happened near the South Ukraine nuclear power station?
The witness was walking down a street they'd probably traveled hundreds of times before when a drone detonated just 800 meters from the facility's gate. One minute they're carrying bread and sugar, the next, people are screaming and running for cover.
You know what makes this particularly chilling? The proximity to a nuclear facility. After Chernobyl and the ongoing situation at Zaporizhia, any military action near these plants raises serious concerns.
And speaking of scale, let's consider the massive assault they described. 580 drones and 40 missiles in a single night. The witness was in a basement, walls shaking, wondering if they'd survive until dawn. That's the largest single-night drone attack recorded in this conflict.
The way they described the sound, the roaring sky, the endless explosions, it really brings home the terror of modern warfare.
Then there's the 1,250-kilometer front line, roughly the distance from Paris to Berlin. Imagine that entire stretch transformed into active combat zones, with communities that were peaceful just months ago now marked as battlefields.
And while all this is happening on the ground, we're seeing these incredibly precise operations, like the drone strike on the Saratov refinery. The technology is remarkable, isn't it?
That's what fascinates me about these accounts, how they show warfare evolving. The pilot described guiding the drone through enemy territory, watching through a screen as storage tanks erupted in flames. It's almost surreal how modern combat can feel both intensely personal and completely remote.
Though sometimes the violence is devastatingly direct, like what happened in Yarova. 25 pensioners killed while simply waiting to collect their payments.
That story particularly haunts me. The witness described the piercing sound, the blast, hiding behind a vehicle. When they stood up, dozens lay motionless. These weren't military targets, just elderly people trying to collect their pensions.
And meanwhile, we're seeing major geopolitical shifts, like Europe's proposed drone wall along its eastern flank. The witness described the tension in that conference room as leaders discussed this massive defensive initiative.
It's fascinating how these stories connect the personal and political. Take Lavrov's speech at the G20, claiming NATO and the EU were waging a real war. The witness described how his words seemed to physically weigh down the room.
That's what makes these first-hand accounts so valuable. They show us how decisions made in conference rooms translate to tremors in someone's basement.
And they capture these incredible moments of contrast, like the new Rheinmetall factory, gleaming machines and silent workers, building defense systems on their own soil. It's not just industry, it's survival infrastructure.
The psychological impact must be enormous, living with that constant uncertainty, never knowing if today's ordinary moment might become tomorrow's tragedy.
Yet somehow, people find ways to maintain normalcy. They still queue for bread, still go to work when they can. They've had to learn new skills, understanding drone capabilities, distinguishing between warning sirens, knowing which buildings have the strongest basements.
These aren't skills anyone ever expected to need in their daily lives.
And that's perhaps the most powerful lesson from these accounts, how quickly everything can change and how resilient people can be when it does. Behind every headline and statistic, there are real people experiencing these events firsthand, trying to navigate a world that changed overnight.
In the end, these aren't just war stories. They're human stories about adaptation and survival.
And they remind us that peace isn't guaranteed. It's fragile, precious, and can shatter in an instant. Understanding that might be the first step toward preserving it.